Hello guys, and thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is actually part 2 to our instructional video DIY for your bomber jacket. Now, I have a whole bunch of stuff here. Well, it looks like a whole bunch of stuff. But I have some stuff here that you're actually going to need, and that's what we're going to kind of just refer to it as stuff. Because remember, we're keeping this simple, we're keeping it basic, and keeping it easy. So don't get discouraged when you look at all the stuff that I have here. We're going to go through some of these things that I actually have, and everything that I have here on the table, you're definitely going to need and you're definitely going to use. First and foremost, a good pair of shears. You need a good pair of shears. Now, in part 1, we actually had some decent scissors because you were just going to be cutting paper. Right now, you need a decent pair of shears because you're going to be cutting fabric. So you need a decent pair of shears. You're definitely going to need straight pins, dressmaker pins. We're definitely going to need those. You're going to need a tape measure. You're going to use that. We're switching over from our ruler to our tape measure now. We have our pattern that you all actually did in part 1. The part 1 video, you all did a great job. Like I said, congratulations on creating your pattern for your bomber jacket. And I don't think I even said this in the first part. It is a unisex jacket. So it's definitely, this jacket pattern can be used for male or female. It doesn't actually matter. It's unisex. Okay, so let's move on. A separating zipper. You definitely need a separating zipper to be able to take care of this design. And you go as close to your color of your fabric as you can get. Okay? Sometimes when you're using, you all know I love blue. Blue comes in so many different shades, it gets difficult. But the way that this jacket is actually designed, we'll actually get away with it. And this zipper, it is a little off, but you'll see. We'll get away with it because of the fact of the way that it's actually designed. Thread. I always grab 2 spools, just in case. Generally, you're not going to use both spools, but just in case, I always grab 2 spools. That way I know I actually have enough of that color. Because that's where it's an issue. You try to go back and get the same color and get very hard to match your thread sometimes if you don't have the number and if they don't have it in stock. I don't live in New York City. New York City is probably a little bit easier, or on the West Coast. I live in Pennsylvania. It gets to be a little difficult at times. So I usually always get 2 spools of thread. All right. Now, remember, we're doing elastic in the waist and also in the wrist. So you need elastic. I actually bought a whole package of 2-inch knit elastic, and this package actually gives me 2 yards. Depending on where you are, what's actually easier, and it's really what's more cost effective, you can actually buy elastic by the yard. It was cheaper to get the package because they were actually on sale. So, 2-inch elastic, 2 yards. That will definitely take care of your basic, your bottom, and your actual sleeves on your jacket. Okay, so our fabric. Now what I'm actually doing, I'm actually going to use this. I've had this fabric for quite some time. I ran into it. It's 3 yards of a faux fur, and it's in this really cool blue shade. I loved it. I've held on to it because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to make out of it. But when I walked in and I seen it, I said, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. So it's really cool. It's a cool, little fun fur situation going on. Very soft, feels really good. I love it. I love the color. So this is what I'm actually going to be making my jacket out of. Your jacket you can make out of anything you want. Now, the pattern that we've done, we used a sweatshirt basically to actually use to do our pattern. Now, you can do anything basically woven. I would say kind of stay away from things that are like 4-way stretch. I would say stay away from that. But anything that's kind of woven with a little bit of stretch will be fine, because even like fleece for a sweatshirt, it has a little bit of a stretch to it. So a little bit of a stretch is fine, but a 4-way stretch, spandex type of situation, no, stay away from that. But anything woven, you can go with. Denim, heck, you could actually do leather if you're feeling that great, that groovy, you want to spend that kind of, you could do leather or whatever it is that you want to do, because remember, this is DIY. Do it yourself, do it your way, okay? So this is what we're doing. Now, lining. I actually purchased 3 yards of lining. I got pretty close to my color. I was very, very happy. Get yourself a lining that is something that is very comfortable. Definitely something that's comfortable, something that is going to feel good on your skin. Because remember, it's going to be right up against your skin. So I wouldn't grab like taffeta or anything like that. If you want to be fancy and you want to grab a satin, that's always real groovy, because remember, your lining is actually going to show in your hood. So that's real groovy, but keep in mind, satin sometimes a little hot. But yeah, I'll get something that's like a polyester. I love them 2 sisters. It works. It works. They feel good. They wear well. It's cool. So that's it. 3 yards of line, 3 yards of your fabric. And what you see here is actually, I grabbed myself 3 yards of batting. Because what I'm going to do, again, doing it my way, I'm going to use this batting to actually add to the thickness of my jacket. I live in Pennsylvania. It is winter time here. So with my jacket, I want to be able to actually rock my jacket now. And to rock my jacket, just using this, it's not going to work. I'll be rocking it all right. By the time I get to the bottom of my driveway, I'll be coming back in the house. So I'm going to use the batting, and I'm going to underline this fabric to actually make mine bulkier. So that's what I'm going to do. Now again, you're going to have to use your own judgment on that, because like I have people watching me from all over the world. So it just depends on where you are and what you're trying to achieve. Definitely my people on the West Coast, I don't expect you to do the whole batting thing. You be somewhere passed out, messing around with all this thick jacket on. So definitely, we're doing it our way. Go with what I'm telling you and make it your own. Make it your own. It was my design originally, but by the time you get done, you'll have done whatever you need to do where you can actually call it your own design. That is actually my goal. My goal is for you to be able to take my basic idea and put your own spin to it, and when you walk away, be able to say, hey, this is something that I did. This is what I did. I did it my way. So that's actually my goal here. So what we're going to do first, we're going to get ready to start cutting and placing our patterns onto our fabric. It's not a big deal, guys. It really isn't. It's not a big deal. I know if you are a brand new sewer, it can seem a little scary, but it's not. I'm going to show you really quick, simple, easy ways to do this and headache-free. All right, let's get started. Okay, first things first. We're going to start with our center back. We're going to start with our back panel for our jacket. Remember, we're placing it on the fold. We're actually working in a fold. This fabric is actually 60 inches wide, so I'm actually going to be able to do really well with the pattern laying and all of that. You're going to fold it in half like you see here. And with this being faux fur, it actually has a pile, what we call a pile. The actual hairs run a certain direction. You want to make sure that everything you cut, that the pile is actually running the same direction if you're going to go with faux fur. So, or real fur. Okay, anything that has a pile to it, you need to make sure that that pile is actually running the same direction. And preferably downward. You want it to be going downward. So that's what I've done here. So you're going to match it up, and then you're going to go ahead and begin to lay out. First piece is your back. We're, remember, placing on the fold. You place it on the fold, so there's nothing to measure out. You're going to use the tape measure, and that's where we're matching up our grain lines. That's what the tape measure is for, guys. But you don't need to do that on here because you basically are using the fold. So you're good. You're all good to go. And everything basically will go off your fold. You'll start with the fold, you'll start to go that way. And then this is the thing. When you get really good at this, you won't even need the tape measure. I'm going to use the tape measure today just to show you all, but you can pretty much eye your grain up when you get good. Okay? All right, guys. So we're going to lay this out. Lay it right to the fold. Take a pen, and you're just going to go ahead, both sides. These are dressmaker's pens, so they're actually longer. So, because generally when you do faux fur, you just take a marker and literally lay your pattern pieces down. Same thing when you use like a leather or a suede. You'll take a marker or a dressmaker pencil and you literally just trace it out. And then you go ahead and cut. But this fur is not too thick and these pens are very long. I love them. And this is what I use. So I can actually go ahead and get away with actually penning using my pen. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to pin all around your pattern piece and make it as secure as possible, because the one thing you don't want it to do, you don't want it to begin to slide as you're cutting, because that's going to throw you off. It'll throw the size of your garment off. It'll be a whole mess. Trust me. Trust me when I tell you, it'll be a whole mess. See, guys, it's just as simple as that. A little bit of sticking, a little bit of pinning, a little bit of hold, a little bit of straightening. Nothing too major, nothing you guys can't handle. Remember, you drafted a whole pattern for the garment, so surely the construction of the garment is not going to throw you guys off. You're going to be good to go. We're doing it ourselves. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. You're going to be the envy of all your friends. All right. Next piece is actually, we're going to go ahead and go with the front panel. And I'm actually going to be able to actually do this and actually get it straight across for each other. I'm very lucky with it as fabric. Because a lot of times these cool colors don't come in this way. Okay? Surely don't. All right, so same thing. Only difference is now when you lay this is how you're going to use your grain line. Okay. You remember the marking you made for your grain line. You are literally going to measure with your tape from the fold to that line, and that's where you'll make sure that you're pinning. You go to the top of it and then down to the bottom of it and go to your fold, and that's how you will make certain that you're getting it onto a straight grain. That very simple. That's why I said don't get discouraged when I say these things and say you're using all this stuff. It's really simple. It's a lot of stuff, but it's really simple. And remember, when you get really good, you won't even need that anymore. Trust me. Trust me, I've been at this for years. So let's go ahead and continue to pin the rest of our pattern down. All right, let's go. We're moving on to our sleeve. We're going to go ahead and lay our sleeve pattern in. You're going to go ahead, remember you need 2 of these, so and it's a wide piece, okay? Now, if your fabric is actually not wide enough to actually lay your sleeve pattern, then that's when you have to actually open up. You have to open up and you have to do a little work. You have to do it manually. You have to lay them one at a time. If you run into a situation where you have to cut your sleeves out individually, you will actually cut one with the writing facing up, and you'll cut one with the writing facing down. And that's it. It's really, really simple. Not a big deal. Okay? So let's go ahead and measure down our grain line to make certain that we actually have our pattern piece straight. And get the pinning. The funny thing about pinning down patterns, I've always looked at it as it's kind of like doing a puzzle. So if you look at it like that, then it becomes a little entertaining because it's like doing a puzzle. What is the best way to lay these pieces out and use the least amount of fabric? Because one thing, when you know how to sew and you know how to design, there's no such thing as an actual piece of scrap or a piece of garbage, because everything can be used. If it's the smallest piece of fabric that you have left over, like when we go to cut this sleeve out, this piece of fabric here is going to be left over. You think I'm going to throw that away? Absolutely not. I'm looking at that now. This could be cuffs. This could be a collar. There's no such thing as throwaway fabric. You understand? So it's in your best interest to learn how to lay patterns in a way where you are using the least amount of your fabric and you have your so-called scraps to hold on to, especially when you start moving into more expensive fabrics such as leathers and beaded things, and there's lace that's very, very expensive. Baby, you don't throw those things away. You put them to the side. You'd be surprised what you can use them for. Lace, you can take a piece of lace and literally cut it apart and make applique. See, I'm soapboxing. I'm getting up on my soapbox. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. But trust me when I tell you, no such thing as throwaway fabric. You put your fabric to the side, find yourself a bin or something to actually put that in and hold on to it, and you'd be surprised what you come up with. Just let your mind wander, and you'd be surprised what you come up with. And those little small ideas like that sometimes will make you a whole lot of money. Trust me. Our last piece that we have to lay out is our hood. So we're going to go ahead and get our hood laid out. Let's go ahead and get it pinned down, guys. Like I said, see, I'm going to put my hood on the outside, because right in here, if I put it over here, then I've got all of this, and it's attached to the fold, which gives me one full piece. If I were to put it over here, I'm cutting, it gives me two free pieces. The one big piece is more valuable. See what I mean about the puzzle? Just a little bit of thought, save, and make a whole lot of money. Okay, this is actually what it should look like when you're done. You're all pinned down. Next thing there is to do is to actually cut. You're going to go ahead and begin to cut your pattern pieces around. I'm going to have a whole mess going here because I'm going to actually be cutting through both layers of my fabric. Let me tell you one really cool trick for all of you who decide to actually use faux fur for your design. You can actually take, if you cut everything individually, you just go through and you just cut the actual top piece, and you don't have to actually cut through the pile. And it literally won't shed so much. So if you just cut down just through the actual woven piece, you'll be doing less cutting on that pile, and it won't be such a mess. You're going to have a mess anyway, but it's going to be a little less of a mess and a little easier for you when you have fabrics that have a large pile, when the pile is really high. So just keep that in mind. Let's get to cutting, guys. And that's it. Just right around your pattern pieces. You're just going to cut right around them, just like you did when you were in kindergarten. Okay? Go ahead, cut your pieces out, and I'll get back with you in just a second. Take your time, guys. Take your time. Okay, guys, this is what you should have once you're done cutting it out. See, it wasn't all that bad. It didn't give you too much of a headache, I'm sure. I'm sure it didn't. Leave it in the comments. Let me know. Did this give you a headache? I know it didn't. You guys are great. I'm telling you. You did the most difficult part when you drafted your pattern. I swear to you, you did. You did the most difficult part. So this is what you have. You have your 4 pieces cut in your fabric. You should be getting very excited because we are just about there. Just about there. Now, what you're going to do next, you're going to repeat those steps. Take your pins off these pieces, sit them to the side, take your patterns, and you're going to repeat the same steps on your line. Go to it, guys. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do this with the lining. Same thing. Same process with your lining. Take your time. Lining fabrics tend to be a little bit more slippery than your fabric that you've chosen for your garment. And I'm sure that's the case in most cases for you guys out there. Just take your time. That's all. Just take your time. And it'll actually all come together for you. And of course, I'm starting with my back piece first, because I can place it right on the fold. Again, very important to make everything as easy on yourself as possible. No need to aggravate yourself with that. There's enough things going on in the world that you can aggravate yourself with. You don't need to do it with this. This is supposed to be fun. All right. Slide it down and let's move along. Remember, measure and tape. Grain line. Fold. You got it. Top, bottom, good to go. Like I said, it's a little more slick on your lining. So when you pin it, I want you to go back and double check your grain line. Go back and double check your grain line. I'll tell you what would actually happen if your grain line is actually off. In your lining, it's when you're off grain, it's what we call basically cutting on the bias. When you cut things on the bias, it tends to start to stretch. Because the grain line is not straight. It's now like this. And it starts to stretch. Okay? And then it'll kind of start to twist a little. So what would actually happen when you go ahead and put your garment in, put your lining into your garment, you would have a heck of a time because your lining is going to be twisting. Whereas, okay, got it. Your lining will be twisted and your garment is not twisted, and it would just create a whole, what will we say, a kerfuffle for you trying to put your lining into your jacket. It will be a whole mess. So take the 2 seconds and recheck your grain line. All right, let's move on to the sleeve. Okay, now you see here, looks like a little bit of a problem, doesn't it? My sleeve won't fit because mine is wider. So this is when I have to actually go ahead and cut. I'll go ahead and cut it, and then I have to actually lay my sleeves out flat to actually do that. And when you do it, you want to make sure that you're actually, remember, just keep the grain going the exact same way. If it's a print, if it's a pile, well, you're not going to have a pile on your lining, but if it's a print, you want to make sure that the print is still running downward or upward, whatever you decided on should be downward. You want to make sure that when you open up, you want to make sure that that print is still laying in a downward motion. All right? Let's get to it. Okay, we've gotten all of our linings cut out. We're going to do this one more time, guys. Well, most of you are done. For those of you who have actually decided to actually add the batting to make your jacket thicker, we got one more step, guys. We're going to cut our batting. Okay guys, we're moving on to our batting. Now let me just say this before we even get started. Do not allow this to intimidate you. This is nothing, it's fabric. Just like everything else that you've actually dealt with. It's nothing but fabric. We're not going to allow it to intimidate us, you understand? Not at all. Don't be intimidated. Only thing that you're going to do with this is you're going to manipulate it the same way you manipulated the rest of your fabrics. All it really is, this is the fiber fill that they actually use to stuff a pillow. And it's just basically meshed into and piled into a sheet, as opposed to a bag of what looks like cotton candy. So I know good and well, all that we've been through, I know you're not going to let filling for a pillow intimidate you. So, like I said, handle it just like fabric. You don't have to really worry about grain lines and things like that, which is going to make it even a little bit easier. So, let's go. Let's go. You're going to take it and you're going to fold this and give yourself some room here. You're taking it, fold it, you're going to lay your pattern pieces just like you did when you were putting them on, put your jacket pieces onto the other fabric. Okay, I want you to be very careful here because I'm pressing the pen, but I'm only pressing it down one layer because it's kind of thick. So I'm only pressing it down one layer just to hold it. So you want to make sure you're being very careful. But this kind of, once you fold it, it kind of sticks together anyway. So it shouldn't shift, but just be careful, guys. Be careful, be careful, be careful. All right, and then once you get them pinned in place, get the cut. Just like cutting into a cloud, guys. Yeah, I definitely want to see all my fashionistas and fashion guru guys out here in their jackets, killing the game. Killing the game. I want to see it. Send it to me in my email. spillitboy@gmail.com. I can't wait to see you guys in your creations. Keep cutting, guys. We're just about done. We got a few more pieces, and we'll be done with cutting your jacket out. We are almost basically to the halfway point. Trust me, the sewing part is really not that difficult. We're gonna blow right through this and be on the streets in our jackets in no time. Okay, guys, completed. We are done. We are finished with part 2 of the tutorial for your bomber jackets. We have cut everything out. We've cut out our batting for those of you who want the batting, who want a more warm jacket and a more bulky jacket. We've cut our linings out. We've cut out our fabric. We are ready to go. Next step, sewing machine. Step after that, to the streets to show our fashions to the world. I am so proud of you guys. I hope you're having a great time. I am having a great time doing this with you and helping to bring out some creativity across the YouTube streets. I appreciate you guys. Again, I am enjoying you. I hope you're enjoying this. I will see you in part 3. Later, guys.